Recording. Right, going live in 3, 2, 1. Right, okay, so I mentioned earlier on that we do actually have a special guest this week. He is, I think your title is Chief Executive. I think that sounds cooler for Mystery Away Days. You are chairman of a grassroots football club. Have you written a book? You've probably written a book at some stage, Liam, or probably going to do that in the future. You're a managing director. What else can we call you, really? We got Liam Bond on.
I think I've written 5 or 6 books.
Have you actually?
But I ripped them all up and burnt them all before I published them.
Liam, thank you
Everyone
for coming on,
writes
mate.
books.
Thanks for having
thank
me,
you.
Will, and
How are you?
Ben. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Isaac, I know you're going to be listening to this week. I cannot believe you've not let him on. Cannot believe it.
The only chairman in probably non-league that's not been invited onto the fan podcast of their own football club.
So yeah, listeners, just for clarity, so I actually run another podcast for AFC Crewe that we spoke about briefly before. I know we've had George on previously, we had Jack on a few weeks ago. Liam is the chairman of the football club, and the podcast is run by myself and our head of welfare and safeguarding, a guy called Isaac. And Isaac refuses to let Liam come on. I'm not sure why. I think he thinks it's funny. I think he's gone a little bit power hungry and power mad. I'm not sure. But he's really enjoyed it. So I thought, Joe, what? I'm going to get Liam on ours instead and get him on Football Drop. So thank you for coming on. Before we get kind of stuck in, I'd like to firstly know a little bit about Liam, who you support, and then hopefully there won't be too much ripping into you from Will like he did when George came on last season.
Listen, there'll be no doubt some ripping from Will, but I'm a Liverpool fan, and I'm quite frankly. Wait, Will, who do you support?
Arsenal.
All right, we're okay then, Will. You and I will be fine. I just didn't want you to say Manchester United. Then we would.
No. Don't worry about that.
No chance.
No, I have nothing but respect for Arsenal as long as they finish below Liverpool this season. That's absolutely fine.
What a diplomatic way of saying it, mate.
But yeah, so I mean, there's a whole long story that kind of starts with myself and then how AFC Crewe became a thing. So I guess I kind of have like a social media company in Manchester, so we have a lot of followers on kind of various social media accounts. And kind of one of my passion's football. I mean, if you ask my fiance, she'll tell you that it's completely like it kind of takes over my whole life, the whole sport. She comes in and she sees Liverpool and she's like, right, okay, now I know whether he's going to be in a good mood this weekend or a really, really bad mood. And that's been the case since I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. So, yeah, so the football has always been the thing, and kind of when it went into social media, we kind of 3 or 4 of us, we had like Lad Bible and Uni Lad, so we kind of made those become kind of what they were. We kind of took over them after they were like horribly sexist things, and we kind of made them like normal things, and we got rid of all that horrible side to that culture and tried to kind of bring in mental health and tried to kind of champion what men should be a little bit more. So we were there for kind of like 5, 6, 7 years, and then myself and my business partner did our own thing, and we kind of built this big audience across various pages. My face is pretty much on none of them. Kind of, I've got footy manager memes where a lot of our kind of AFC Crewe fans came from, but my face, I kind of try and keep away from a lot of it because I'm not really interested in that side of it, and also my face is kind of more suited to radio than it is for YouTube and TV. But I always had this kind of dream of kind of either getting into coaching or management. I mean, my playing career was, you know, it was not spectacular. Listen, they called me the Skelmersdale's Latin probably 15 years ago, and I never really got past that. I made a couple of appearances at the very, very lower end of English football, but
what level? Like professional leagues or non-league?
higher than AFC Crewe's level, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like counties, so like maybe 2 leagues above. But
oh, nice.
You know, not like consistently, and not with any sort of talent. But we had this like kind of close knit community of people where I'm from, just kind of like just outside Liverpool, and we just play football every single day. Like every single day, we would meet up and we'd play football, and we play football with. When we were 17, we played football with 35-year-old men, and we that was just what we did. And there was one game that Ricky Lambert played against us, which is pretty.
No way.
After he retired, yeah, and because the thing is, in the Liverpool league, it was so rough. You know, like I'm 6'6", but you still look around and be like, Jesus Christ, that guy's 38 and he's 6'5", and quite frankly, looks like he's going to break my nose as soon as I go near him, and it really sets you up for life seeing men like that. And then sometimes they would break your nose, and sometimes they would, it'd be much worse. But I kind of always wanted to get into coaching. I always wanted to get into kind of the owner of a football club, and then kind of when the Super League came about, and it was so draining to be a part of to kind of support a top flight club, because I'm from Liverpool, and Liverpool's a very different part of the United Kingdom, and it's part of a United Kingdom that we don't really class ourselves as a part of the United Kingdom. And to see almost like kind of like the hypocrisy, and like, hey, we're supposed to be different, we're supposed to be special, we're supposed to look out for each other, we're supposed to be purely community based, and have all the right, just all of the purity in our hearts, and then have our owners be like, hey, we want to join this Super League. And it was kind of like, it was the biggest. Can I swear in this podcast?
Yeah, swear all you like.
It was the biggest kick in the ball. Like, it was just such a big kick in the balls. It was like, oh my God, if I carry on supporting this, I go against everything that I thought that Liverpool was about. So one of my friends that I work with at Lad Bible, George Pavlou, who has become just a super kind of important part of AFC Crewe. We kind of spoke about it over a beer, and we were like, but I was like, it's awful, and maybe this is the time, because I knew that I had the audience. I knew that, if I wanted to, I could reach 100,000 people, maybe 200,000 people in a day. But I never ever did it with any purpose, because I was like, hey, I'll just send them memes, because that's kind of what is funny. Yeah. But one day when something has a purpose, I'll send that too. So we kind of had this conversation. We're like, hey, how about we get them all, like, get as many people as we can together, and then create this kind of like, and take over a football club and run it the right way, and maybe create fans of a club, and then have them have proper input on a club and make a proper community club. So we pushed it. We got a lot of people involved, yourself included, Ben, and then we literally we voted on. I literally spent like kind of like 8 to 12 hours a day on phone calls with football clubs at all different levels, like really high levels and really low levels, for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then we put it all together, and we voted on which club that we should take over.
So who was it that was in the vote? So obviously yourself and George.
Yeah. So in the vote was the whole community. So.
Oh, right, okay.
And almost as like if I'm being completely honest, I didn't vote for AFC Crewe. I didn't want us to take over AFC Crewe. We struck a deal to take over Pershore Town, which is a club in the Hellenic division, much higher up than AFC Crewe. They had like average attendance of about 400 or 500 people. They had the whole town of Pershore were like hugely behind that club. And we took over it, and they announced me as the new chairman, which was never my intention, by the way. I was supposed to launch NewFan and not be a chairman.
I was going to come on to that and ask, because I know that you don't tend to really say, hey, yeah, it's me. Like, even in when I initially joined the group, like, I had no idea who you were. You were just called NewFan. There was no there. I was like, is this the guy? Like, is he the big boss? Like, what's going on?
the employees at my companies will tell you that I'm a very different person than the guy that is the chairman of AFC Crewe. I don't like being, because I know that there's a lot more there's a lot of eyes and stuff. I don't want this to be about me, and I know that the project that we're doing is really special. It's so different, and it has so much potential that I don't really want anyone to know who I am. I don't care about that. I want everyone to know who New Fan is, and I want everyone to know who the AFC Crewe board are, and who the AFC Crewe players are, and the manager. That's what it's all about. I'm not the guy. Don't ask me about anything, but just watch us, check out the Discord, and you'll see something really special that's going on at the club. But I'm not too keen on being the face.
No, that's fair enough. I find it quite interesting because we actually had George on last season. Towards the end of last season, just obviously talking about the AFC Crewe side of things. I think it was only about a month or two after I'd kind of joined the whole project as well, so it's quite interesting. And the bit from George's interview that stuck with me was we decided over a beer, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought, bullshit, did you decide over a beer? And you've literally just repeated it. I was like, oh, okay, maybe George wasn't lying. So
we
hold my hands up. Sorry.
I can remember where we had the beer. We had it in a bar called the Leopard in Nantwich, and it kind of felt like a really profound moment that we had, and it was like, hey, let's do this, because we knew that we knew that the idea was so strong that if we pushed it, the only issue that we had was that there were four of us. There were four of us involved, and it were kind of friends since the start of Lab Bible, so that's 10 years. The only thing that we were nervous about was the fact that this could potentially take over our whole lives, and we won't earn a single penny from it.
Yeah.
And we literally just had that agreement of like, hey, let's we don't even have a club yet. We don't even have any board members. We don't have any fans. We don't know what we're doing. Let's figure out later down the line how we can reimburse ourselves, which, by the way, did not come.
I was going to ask that. Did you get there?
That's mad. That's absolutely mad. Maybe, 5-10 years time, there might be at a point where we go, okay, we might be able to actually get a bit of a paid job out of it. You never know. Right.
5-10 years time, I kind of, I've spoken to Gaz, our co-chairman, and you know what, it's like, it's been over a year. I'm just looking forward to the day that I can kind of just sit down in the stands and just watch AFC Crewe, because that's the one thing that I'm missing a lot. As soon as I sit down, someone's in my ear going, oh, by the way, we've got no pint glasses in the bar. Can you come and help us out? And I'm like, oh, right, okay, yeah. All right, give me a second. Oh my God, the food delivery for half time has been delayed, and it's like, all right, okay, yeah, all right, I'll come back. And I come back, it's 2-0, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
At what point do I enjoy the football? But it's probably the most. When we started New Fan, it was never my intention to become a chairman of a football club ever. It's never been my kind of intention. I wanted to get into a football club. I didn't know in what capacity, and then we kind of decided on New Fan and creating a model where non-league clubs could fund themselves and they could create a good income for themselves from their fans, because fans would, from a large part, be kind of happy to spend £3 or £4 or £5 or £6 on funding a local football club, but there doesn't seem to be like a model that can be introduced to football clubs. So that was kind of the driving force of it. And then all of a sudden the community voted on taking over AFC Crewe, which were, by the way, the worst English football team probably in history. So they didn't win a single game in the whole season before we took over them. And then because I voted for us to take over Pershore, which is like kind of 4 hours from my house. I went there like 5-6 times, and we became chairman. And then when that fell through, everyone voted for AFC Crewe. Now I'm only like 20 minutes away from Crewe. So then all of the physical work kind of just became on me, and I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. But we were playing in fields, we were playing in parks. So I'd turn up every week with a bag of balls and all of the nets, and we would do all of it, and the corner flags, and then I'd have to be linesman as well, and I'd also have to be water boy. And I'm like, Ryan Reynolds doesn't do this shit. Like, this is the dream. But then I got voted in as the chair, and I'm like, you know what? I love this silly little club that we've taken over. So if people want me to be chairman, then I should definitely just do it and see what happens.
No,
that must make you fall in love with it even more, though, knowing that you've been there as ball boy, as water boy, as the linesman, and then you can watch it grow and grow and grow as it gets through into wherever you end up.
The level of progression that we've made in pretty much just over a year is frightening. We've had 2 promotions. We've got a ground that's fit for many leagues above us with Alsace Town. We've got a Premier League Gary Taylor-Fletcher as our manager, who's just, I mean, with respect to kind of previous managers at the club, but I've kind of spent a lot of time with a lot of them. Having that transition into Gary Taylor-Fletcher, who was a Premier League striker, a championship striker, and then having someone who he kind of worked his way up through Leicester under 23s and really kind of worked his way up, and he spent some time in America and coached over there, and then having someone like that he's still a super young coach, but had the kind of the difference in the way that the club completely changed the moment that we kind of managed to land Gary Taylor-Fletcher. Everything just happened so fast. It seemed like we went from kicking around and we were avoiding kicking dog shit when we were playing on a park field, and then 6 weeks later it's like, hey, don't mention the dog shit because Gary Taylor-Fletcher's on the sideline. He thinks we're going to be massive, so don't say nothing about the dog shit. And then now that obviously with him kind of spearheading on the field stuff, and then we have such an amazing team off the field, we're just a completely different football club, and now people know who we are, they know what we're doing, and we're making great strides.
Yeah, I mean the difference I've noticed literally in just over 6 months of being part of it, it's just ridiculous. And like it's the expectation as well. Like it's just absolutely mad. So I mean, it'll be good to see how it develops over the next kind of 12-18 months as well. I know there's so many exciting plans in the background of, obviously building the momentum and things like that as well, and aiming for promotions, back to back. And I know I spoke to GTF a few weeks ago as well, and he's like, no, 100%, like we got to win it. So I don't want to just get promoted; I want to win it.
Yeah, I think this season has been like a super stressful. It's because we got the double promotion, so we were in the Crewe and District League last season. We won that, and then they kind of skipped us. They skipped us from the Staffordshire Division 2 to the Staffordshire Division 1 because of our resources and the whole project. We probably kind of naively thought that the team that we were building was so many divisions higher. We were signing players from kind of Leicester under 23s. We just signed a player who played at Atletico Madrid under 23s. He was telling us before we kicked off on the weekend that his toughest opponent was Reguilon, and it's like, hey, you're just at Crewe now, and it's like we made a lot of like really, really big statement signings, and we progressed really fast and really hard. But one thing we didn't, that we kind of, myself and also Gary, I work so closely with Gary, and he'll probably also admit that we didn't really take into account that you can sign all these amazing footballers, but it doesn't mean that they're ready for the league, even though they're 3 leagues above. That when you have a 6'5" centre back who wants to break someone's face, when you have a 5'2" striker who has played 6 leagues above and he thinks he's too good for the division or whatever, it actually doesn't work. And so what we're finding now in the league that we're in, and it's a complete kind of learning curve for us, is that good football won't win as the league, but effective football will. And we have these amazing a lot of our footballers are lightweight. They've played 6-7 divisions above us, but we don't have a big, ugly, horrible striker or a big, ugly, horrible centre back or a big, ugly, horrible CDM who will just kill someone. And we are finding that these games are physical, and they're not like the games of football that the players that we recruited are used to.
Yeah, you need a big a big brick shithouse in midfield. Someone who's going to
Yeah,
go approaching someone 30 seconds into the game, but like, that old school, English mentality of let them know you're there early doors. You need one or two of them.
It's so frighteningly true in non-league. It's so frighteningly true. And I spoke to the players after this weekend. We drew this week on Saturday at 1-1 against a team that hadn't won this season, and it felt like we'd lost 10-0. Like it was that painful. And I said, listen, no one's hitting anyone. And one of the players said to me, well, it's £25 fine if you get a booking. So we don't want to tackle anyone. I said, I'll pay every single fine that you get as long as the booking that's worth taking. Like, don't let that stop you from absolutely nailing someone who's absolutely rinsing you time and time again.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because you do kind of get that reputation in football quickly. It happens at the top level. I know for a fact, just, in our little teams and things like that. And, in the general chat, it's a case of just toughen up. If people know that you're a bit of a pushover, like Arsenal had it years ago. We decided after, Vieira went, we lost obviously all of our big bastard centre-back, so to speak, and things, and it was a case of, all right, well, we got players like Fabregas and Santi Cazorla, fantastic, technical players. They're not going to, barge someone like Haaland off the ball, are they?
Yeah, exactly. We played a game. We played the game last week, and we lost it 5-2. We've not won the last 2 weeks. We lost it 5-2. One of our centre-backs, I came home with him yesterday, he said, last week when we lost 5-2, they had a striker who must have been like 6'5", 6'6", and he was warming up and he had his top off, and quite frankly, I've never seen anything like it. The guy looked like the Incredible Hulk, and our centre back looked at him. Our centre back 6'4" himself, and he looked at him and thought, God, I hope he's not playing against me. And then the guy didn't even start. He came off the bench, and the striker was terrible, but just the fact that he was 6'4". Just scared the living daylights out of our centre backs, and it completely unsettled them. Like, we just didn't want to go against that guy, and it's like, right, we need a team that when we come out on the pitch, it's fine that we can pass the ball around because you're all phenomenal footballers, but you need to be scared of someone. The first thing, if you're a striker, if you're, I played when I was younger, I was a striker. The first thing you looked at was the centre backs, and if someone's big and scary and ugly, you're like, I don't quite fancy this.
Yeah,
and it's the same. It's the same. It's the same with centre backs. Centre backs look, and if it's a big ugly striker who'll throw an elbow and throw an arm and push you, grab your head and throw you around, they don't want that.
No.
And then what we need is that old dark arts of football that kind of it exists in this in these leagues that we're in, but we've not really planned for it. We've planned for these amazing technicians, and so we're learning every week.
I can see that being such an easy trap to fall into, though, because like you say, you watch the top leagues week in, week out, and you see those skillful players that are going to, run into the box and score a great goal. Whereas actually what you need is those long balls, that ball into the box, so you got that big lump that can edit into the back of the net. That's the kind of level that you're at, really, isn't it?
Yeah, last week we're actually, I think, without giving an exclusive here, we're kind of close. We're in talks to sign the guy, but we played City of Stoke last week, and they I don't think they were, I think they'll kind of openly admit they weren't expecting to beat us, but they wanted to beat us so fucking bad because they knew that we were the new kids in town. They knew that we had money, and then we knew that we had like pretty boy footballers. And listen, it riled them up a little bit. They had a right back who he probably made more successful tackles than our whole team have all season in one game. He nailed us every single time. We had our left winger, Como, who's played at a higher level, and he's probably never had that physicality before. He got absolutely ruined every single time he got the ball. It doesn't matter if it was a foul or not. This guy just wanted to kill every single person. I was like, right, this is what we're missing here. This is what we're missing. So, yeah, we've every game that we've dropped points this season, it's been away from home. So we had a game against Florence, and then after the game they beat us 3-2, and they were expecting to be kind of mid-table. They were expecting us to roll them over. We went to the bar after the game. They put on every team puts on food, and we go, and then all of our players were complaining about the length of the pitch. I've never seen a football pitch with longer grass than that. And I said to the chairman, I was being nice to him. I was like, and I was super pissed off that we'd lost, because the thing is, they lumped the ball as far as they could every single time they got it. We tried to play the ball along the ground, and it was just getting caught up. We couldn't pass the ball. And I said, have you ever thought about giving your pitch a little bit of a mow? He said, I've watched every one of your games since last season. We're not going to mow the pitch for you. We're going to leave it. He said, we left it to grow for the whole of pre-season just because we knew that you want to pass it around the ground. I said, yeah.
No.
I said it's fair enough, and it killed us.
I didn't
But
realise
they're the dark art that you have at this level.
Oh my God! I remember watching that game as well, and I thought, "Fucking hell, what are we doing?" And I saw all the messages and stuff after, and I knew they'd left it, but I didn't realise that long.
I'm not joking, Ben. It was genuinely like playing in a swamp. Like, you could not. If you look back, you can play like just a simple pass to the fellow centre half, and straight away it just dies in the grass. And it must have been this long, the grass. And he was like, yeah, we were never going to cut that grass for you coming, because we know that you played a pretty football, you played a tiki-taka. And they just, every single time, just lumped it as high as they could so that the grass just didn't even impact the way that they played. And they beat us 3-2. And I was like, right. And I spoke to Gary after and was like, right, this is the league that we're in. This is what's going to happen. So
yeah, be aware of it. Change our tactics as and when we need to.
But we have to learn those dark arts. There are different dark arts. Some people are a lot more physical with us, and we just don't have those dark arts yet. We're a little naive. We're a little.
We'll get there. We will get there.
Yeah,
I think the boys are learning, because we had a little bit of feedback. Sorry, just going a bit off topic here, but had a bit of feedback from last week's Full Steam Ahead podcast, and a few of the lads weren't quite happy with what we were saying. And I was like, look, guys, we've been completely honest. It's a fan podcast at the end of this, not by just because we're board members. We're doing it as a fan. It's not officially affiliated with the club and things like that. And there's one or two that's like, wow, it's not fair, you're digging us out. It's like, we haven't mentioned any names, but if you're feeling guilty about it, you're feeling guilty about it. But I thought they did a lot better this time round than the week before. There's a bit more heart and soul into it. It was a hard game, I think, at the same time, but I think a little bit of credit where credit's due on it. There was a bit more guts and fight in it than a week before.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we were we were supposed to be at the women's game today.
Yeah.
So I was with it
in a minute, mate.
Yeah. So, but I was with a couple of the men's players today, and they did raise the podcast. And I won't name names. They know who they are. I've been with them today, but they did name names that they were like, "Hey, there's this." They don't like it if they don't perform well, and then they see that the kind of every single message that goes in the Discord. So our whole club is running in a Discord chat. So we've got 1,500 people in there. And then when we have a game live, the people watching the game, whether it's 10 people or 100 people, they speak about the game live in the Discord chat. And what they don't realize is that after the game, as soon as the game's over, every single game we have the same routine. You go back with the other team you just played, and they put on food, and you discuss the game, you have a drink, you have some food. And all of our players every single week show each other the chats that come from our board members and our fans. And they ultimately don't like it. They kind of, obviously they like it when every single chat, if someone does well. So I'm not going to mention a certain player, but one player we'd lost against Florence, and he put in screenshots of the chat into the whole team chat. It's someone saying, "Oh, he was really good, but we'd lost against a team that we shouldn't have lost against." So the players didn't take it too kindly, and then there's a little drama there. But every single game, I'm with them every single game, and after the game, they go through every single fan message and every single bit of feedback from the game. They read it out in front of each other, so it does affect some people. But I mean, I said to them today, a couple of them said, I feel like the fans are a little bit too harsh when we don't win games. So I said, maybe win games, and then you don't, because the thing is, you can't rein in a fan. I said, listen, it's not, that's a fan podcast, and they all love the podcast. They listen. Every single player listens to every single version, every single week of the podcast. They love the podcast. They just don't like the podcast when the podcast mentions that they weren't very good that week.
Yeah.
And I said, this is a part of football. It might not be a part of football that you're used to, because maybe you played in teams where they don't have podcasts and they don't have that fan pressure. But this is different. We have an ultimately online fan base, and if you don't pull your weight and you have a poor week, you have to just take that on the chin and bounce back.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, because obviously we don't have necessarily lots of local fans there at the moment for the club. As you said, it is a mainly online base. Myself, I'm 4.5 hours away, so I'm not going to be able to just pop up every weekend for a game and things like that. So it's kind of a little bit like the keyboard warriors to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
You have for your big clubs that, an Arsenal supporter that lives in, like fucking somewhere like Mozambique, for example. They're not going to be popping over every weekend for a game, but they'll watch it live and things like that. And they will be slating the players when they make a sloppy pass, or that he doesn't appear to be putting in effort. And I get it, it's a completely different level, but it's the same sort of principle there.
But these fans have exactly the same right that kind of you and I have. Like this weekend just gone, we just drawn 1-1 against a team that haven't won a game this season, and I was a complete piece of shit when people spoke to me, because I was so sickened by how